This is a wee addendum that we'll put on after the recording of the show that you're about to watch shortly, due to things that have happened this morning regarding the Martin Keating's case, and of which details have been leaked to the Murdoch press, and is now all over the place with the Scottish Government's position on the People's case. We'll pass over to Mike now. I'm going to come back and talk about it in a minute.
We're actually not going to do it as an addendum, Dave. It's more important than that. We're going to do it as an introduction to the show that we recorded with Diane Matheson last night, and which will go out tonight. You've heard me say quite often that we all recognise the people are sovereign, but I have never yet seen the people exercise that sovereignty. I think we're now reaching a real crunch point with what's come out today. The video that you're going to watch, folks, is about the long walk to freedom. It ties in with the song that Dave and I introduced you to, which is "This is the Road to Independence." We're asking you to watch the whole video, despite what we're about to say, because it's about reaching out to every person across the length and breadth of Scotland, doing it through a walk to everywhere we can get to in Scotland. Behind all of that, however, the purpose is to ask people who decide that they want independence to choose a road, and that road is the Scottish Digital Covenant, something that each of us individually can sign, and eventually, if enough of us do it, we need over 2,200,000 to do it. It's a huge task. It can only be done one by one. You've got to make your own individual decision. But if we can achieve that as the sovereign people of Scotland, we, the sovereign people, not a leader, not a party, we, the sovereign people, will record in history that we declared Scotland free and independent. Dave, I'll pass over to you to try and raise what's happened this morning and why we've done this introduction.
Right. Well, this morning I was sent a link to an article in The Sun, which I don't take seriously, until I saw what was in it, and realised that somebody had been leaked something that should not be part of the public domain yet. Something that we've all been waiting to hear about that hasn't been released, but somehow a Sun reporter got hold of it, and then it turns out so did the Times. Both of them are owned by Murdoch. So somebody somewhere high in the SNP echelons has leaked that for a reason. Now, what it says, well, okay, the Scottish Government were originally a party in the Keating's case as someone who might have an interest. And the timing of that was, given that we know now what was actually in this document, they were party to it. And when that came about, obviously Martin still had to do his crowdfunder. Now at that point, it was worth them staying in. As soon as they realised that Martin's crowdfunder was going to work, they pulled out altogether in the hope that they would be able to keep this information away from the public, because if it became public, it was going to absolutely destroy any chance that they've got of getting elected at the next election. Because a lot of this, a lot of us, me, I put my hands up. I'm not in this for the SNP. I'm in this for independence, and that's all. I don't agree with a lot of the policies, but that being said, all been said and done, that doesn't matter. Well, I'm in it for independence, and that's why they get my vote. It's why they get a lot of people's vote, people that are watching this. Now, the problem is now that they've actually said that Martin Keating has got no right to bring this court case because he's not an MSP. Well, let me give you a wee history here. Scottish sovereignty, as Mike's just said, the people are sovereign. And this has been said in a High Court case in 1953 by Lord Cooper, the post box cases where Elizabeth II on the post boxes, that parliamentary sovereignty is a peculiarly English construct that has got no relevance in Scots constitutional law. Now that is the Scottish Court of Session, and it was said in 1953. We're not talking about 300 years ago. We're talking about 60 years ago. All being said and done, in Scotland, sovereignty works this way: the people, the Scottish SNP, the Scottish MPs that go to Westminster, then Westminster, then the Scotland Act 1998, then the Scottish Parliament, then the MSPs and the First Minister. That's the way it goes. Top of that food chain is Martin Keating's and every single person that signed up to this case. And they're trying to basically change it and say that it's not. If I could give you a wee line from the Declaration of Arbroath that was also made by sovereign people, where Scottish sovereignty was born. Yet if he should give up what he has begun, you can follow the rest yourself. But at the end of the day, we've been stitched up. We can't trust the politicians. And the only damn way that we can be sure we can get independence is to get signing this covenant, get 2.2 million people to do it. And the people are there. They've just been denied the chance to prove it by their own government, not by Westminster, by Holyrood. And if people sign up to that, then I'll go back to another thing that Christine Graham said in the Scottish Parliament in 2012. If the people go out onto the streets in their numbers and say that they want independence, there is no court, no parliament, nothing can gainsay it. And that is what we need to do. That's what the covenant's in place for, and we need to do it. If you want independence, sign the covenant. That's it.
Let me interject something, Dave. You've just watched my friend Dave Llewellyn being calmer than he actually is, folks. I've asked him to be a wee bit calmer. There's a test for this. If you dig into what Dave has shared with me, it makes the comment that there is not currently a proposal for a referendum in the Scottish Parliament. That's the basis of it. So here's a wee challenge for every SNP, MSP in the Parliament. Prove Dave and I wrong. One of you, just one of you, bring forward a bill for a referendum that removes the problem that Dave and I are currently thinking about. One SNP, MSP, prove us wrong. Folks, watch the rest of this video. It's very, very important. It's how you can take part in signing the covenant.
And
that's to you, Dave.
And as far as the message to the MSP is concerned, there are a lot of you leaving in May. It's not going to be a career breaker if certain people don't want you to put it forward. But we need to know who is trying to stop independence. And if you believe in independence and you believe in the sovereignty of the Scottish people, put a bill for an independence referendum forward and do it soon, because Scotland needs you to stand up and do it. Right,
watch the video, folks, please. It's important. It's how we'll bring the covenant to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Twelve Heats with myself and Mike, as usual. And third time visitor, we've got Diane Matheson from somewhere up north in the wild yonder, who's going to tell you all about what's going to be happening and the walks that are due to start 2 weeks on Friday at Yellowdon, and she's pretty much one of the main organisers on it. And so basically, that's what tonight's going to cover. Over to you, Mike.
Okay. Long Walk to Freedom. Still in planning to a certain extent, Diane. We had a discussion before we started recording. We started out with 3 routes where we need core walkers to take part in each of those routes. And at the moment, we know we've got one of the routes covered, but the other two are still under discussion. Could you talk through, one, the 3 routes, and then 2, the start dates for each of those 3 routes for me?
Yeah, sure. So we got the 3 routes, the 3 different distances. So the main walk, or what we're classing as walk 1, that you can see from the website, is the full 1320 miles route. And that was established, and the distance was established, obviously, to commemorate the year of the signing of the Declaration of Arbroath.
Yep.
Now, once we did that, we noticed that there was quite a chunk of the country missing. So we developed a second walk, a 700-mile route. And then on top of that, that 700 was to represent the 700 years and the 700th anniversary of the Declaration of Arbroath. And then there was still a bit of the country missing. So we developed a 500-mile route, and that route is to basically commemorate the original 500 miles walk.
Yep.
Now, the 1320 walk kicks off on the 18th of September, am I correct? I think.
Yep.
The 18th of September up at Elandonnan Castle, and then it's going to go north and cover basically all the sort of coast of the west, and then come up around the country, up all the way down the north, and then back down towards Inverness, and then down and into Aberdeenshire a bit, and then back out to cover the coastal areas of Fraserburgh and Peterhead and these communities.
Yep.
And then down again the coast, the northeast coast, taking in places like Arbroath and Brecon and Lawrencekirk and whatnot, and Forfar, and then sort of back into Dundee. And then from there it gets into kind of like Fife and the more central belt, like heavier populated, denser populated areas. It starts to crisscross a little bit across the central belt and then back out into the borders. So that walk starts on the 18th and finishes on the 30th of November. And for that walk already, we have 4 registered walkers.
Okay.
3 have registered to do the 1320, and 1 has registered to do 500 miles.
When does the 500 start?
The 500 miles on the 500 miles route, or the 500 miles part of the long route?
No, when
500 miles walk.
Yeah,
so we've got 1 walk starting at Elandonnan going north on the 18th of September, and then we've got the other 500-mile route starting going down the way.
on what date?
Sky first.
Sorry, what was that,
On
Dave?
what?
Going west into Sky first, and then before it goes south.
Yes, it goes out in the islands and then comes back in, but they both start on the same day.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
They
there's
both
one
kick
start.
off and go different directions.
Yeah.
Why I'm asking the dates is very simply, I think once the first walk starts, there'll be a greater interest in the other walks. But there's 2 starting on the same date, so that makes it, you're not going to get that interest, whereas the one starts on the 24th of October.
Yeah.
So as interest goes on, there's still time for people to take part in that. That was
Absolutely.
what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, sorry. So the 3rd route starts on the 24th of October, but it's also time to finish in the borders on the 30th of November.
Yeah.
So they will run concurrently. But the second walk, the 500 miles that goes out to Skye and comes back in, it actually it doesn't go to the border. It finishes in Glasgow on the 14th of November.
Okay. All of these routes have to be safe for the walkers.
Yes.
We were having a discussion before about how people are being asked. I'm one of the people that's done it. Dave's done it with me as well. Are meant to pre-look the actual routes that are involved to make sure that they are actually safe for everyone. So
Yes.
even before we start, we're looking for people to head to the map, and we'll give links to everything later on, but we're head to the map, look for the parts that have already been reconnoitred, and look for the ones that they could maybe walk, drive, video, photograph, find out if there's any particular danger areas. How is that coming?
Yeah, we've got engagement from quite a few. I'm going to cover, obviously, areas on my doorstep because I know the area and I know these routes. I've got engagement from some people far, far north up in the Highlands have already done some parts of the route. I've engaged with somebody through Yes, who is trying currently to organise covering all the day's walks that go from Inverness all the way down to Elgin.
Right.
There are various parts within the south of the northeast I know that are covered, but it's quite difficult to track because different people are picking up different things on different days. So how we've done it through the website, the core team have organised the stretches for each day. You'll notice when you go on the website and you see the map, there are Saltire flags all along the route. So those Saltire flags represent stopover places and where the walks will start and stop each day. So anybody can pick a stretch of that road if it's in their area. Now, if it is coloured, it's colour coded.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see from the website that if that part of the route is amber, then it means that somebody is covering that and we are gathering footage in that area. But if that colour is not amber, then people can just click on that and send us a message to let us know I can cover this day. Now, along with the maps, obviously the map's a very visual image, but on the page of the website where the map is, there's a button to click on for itineraries, and on that button it tells you every day of that walk, the start point of the walk and the end point of the walk, so that people can view that and they can pick a day. If it's somewhere in their area, if they can see the start point and the end point and they know that it's within their area, if they can go out and, as you say, either walk it, drive it, but get some footage of it so that we know that that route is safe for the walkers. Because obviously we did it off a map when we were planning it, and we did take into account things that the team from the previous walk had said. And for the most part, we would prefer if the walkers weren't walking on sort of like main roads, 70-mile-an-hour roads. One, for the noise of the traffic, the sheer volume of the traffic, but also feel that it would be safer. So we're really looking for people within their local communities to let us know, are there walking routes that run parallel there that the walkers could use, but that the support vehicles could be always in close contact. Because of course the issue is that when you come off a main road, or if the walkers go onto a walkway or a walk path, they can't be fully followed or supported by that support vehicle at every point on that walk path. So it's getting people's local knowledge all across Scotland to contact us and let us know. Now, we have had some instances of that already where people have said, actually the main road's here, but there's a walkway here, and this walkway part is 3 miles long. The walkers could walk that 3-mile stretch. They wouldn't need any traffic, and then the support vehicles could rest at these points. So we have had a couple of people that have already come in with that. So the more people that can give us that information and record that for us, the more it will make us have more effective planning.
Dave, you had that on the first walk. I can't remember, was it Forfar or somewhere around that area where someone said, "Don't go that way, go this way"?
Basically, we were south of Forfar, we were just past Brecon, and we were told to go down we were planning to go down the main road into Dundee, and people were waiting for Yes Money Sheath to meet us at Teal Services north of Dundee. And as we were going past Kirriemuir, Ruth Watson and her pals said, "Oh, that road's too dangerous to walk down, we'll show you a better way." And they took us away up into the hills around Kirriemuir, and we got lost, and we ended up arriving 2 hours late at Teal, which was not, it was a good day, but the folk at Teal were starting to think that we disappeared. But no, as I say, I mean, you couldn't walk down that road, it was dangerous, and also with the same problem as we went to Cumbernauld into Glasgow. The thing with that one is, we've been told that it was a cycle path that we were going to be going down anyway, which was the best way to go. But we arrived in Cumbernauld a day early, which caused a problem with the.
You're walking too fast.
No, basically, as the itinerary had been worked out, we'd started off like day one in Skye, and then as you go through it, instead of where you started off, it suddenly became the place that you finished, and we ended up losing a day, or gaining a day as it was, and they ended up walking South Queen's Ferry to Kirkcaldy to make up the mileage, and it was just a logistical problem, but it was pretty crazy. But right, so there's a lot of that. There's an issue with a road and the borders that we were wanting to go down.
Yeah.
Diane, one of the things obviously that's involved in this is to try and get as many people to take part, whether they're doing a core walk, whether they're helping out with accommodation, whether they're driving a route beforehand to make sure it's safe. On the web page, we have a registration page.
Yeah.
Now up on the screen. Can you talk us through what's involved in that, if you would?
Yeah, well, for the most part, obviously, for doing the walk and having an event of this size and covering the country, we know that we can't do it ourselves. And we want to get as much people involved as possible. So we basically put a call out to anybody and everybody across the country to try and help us with various different things. So the first thing we've just kind of covered is that we want people to come in and try and help us to develop that route and film that route. So we're calling for volunteers to do that, but we're actually calling for volunteers to do a whole host of things. We're looking for people to volunteer to potentially, if the walk's coming through your area, could you provide support vehicles for that day? Could you be part of the support team for that day? Do you have first aid experience that you could support the walkers in your area? Could you support them for longer? We're also looking for security, just for people to help when the walk's arriving in a location. We want to have people that are local to that location, that know the area, that know the town, that can just make sure that there isn't going to be any issues for the walkers arriving, or any issues for the potential of the peripheral events that others will organise. We're looking to the movement or to people to volunteer to potentially provide accommodation for the walkers. We know that we got a lot of that the last time. We got a lot of support. It doesn't necessarily have to be for free, but any of the local businesses in some of these communities that are maybe, well, we know will be struggling after the COVID situation and lockdown, and particularly our tourist industry. So one of the things for us is that if we could get some of those to come forward and volunteer and potentially offer us package deals so that we can support their business, but that they can provide support for the walkers. We're looking for people to potentially do some laundry for the walkers, because I don't think they're going to do the same thing in 72 days. And so, you know, if we arrived at a location, if somebody could come in with their car, take stuff away, wash a load of washing, because there's not going to be too many of them. And obviously we don't want too many on each of the routes, because that then affects the COVID restrictions and things as well. But if we have a small team, if the 4 registered walkers, if that goes to 6, if we have 6 walkers, then if every few days people could potentially provide that washing machine and laundry service for us, we're more than happy to make donations towards them out of the core costs. Now, the biggest thing that we really want people to do is just to get involved in any way, shape or form that they can. But there is an extensive list there, and it does go, our priorities are things like first aid, support vehicles and security, because our priority is to keep the walkers safe. But out with that, you had that kind of ad hoc welcome. I remember Aberdeen had arranged something. Yeah, I think every route you went to,
it was nuts. The only place that we were not met when we arrived was Banff, and that's because we've got a BAM for an MP.
Up here we say bump. It's not BAM, bump.
That's why I go back to what I was saying earlier on about once the first walk starts off, Diane, I think because there'll be people doing videos of it, photographs, etc. The thing creates its own momentum.
Definitely. We've already had somebody volunteer to live stream the whole 1320 for us, and I myself am going to be walking 500 miles of that route, and I will be wearing a GoPro, so I will be putting footage in to the core team every day to be uploaded on the website. And we're looking at various options at the moment of the way it was done the last time and the way it's been done this time what we wanted to try and do was to get the security of the plan in place and all the costs covered. And to try as much as possible and find bricks and mortar accommodation for the walkers rather than having to camp and put up tents and take down tents. If we do need that though,
Diane, I'm going to bring up another page from your website.
Yep.
This deals with the core walkers, right?
Yes.
What provisions are being made for them? Because they are the hardest worked people. The rest of us can turn up and say, hey, you're in my village, well done, here's a sandwich, give me your smelly socks, I'll come back in 5 minutes with them dry for you. But the core walkers have to be looked after. The page that's now up, can you talk us through that? And in particular, the bottom bit where you've got a payment system already up and running to try and provide for some of the costs that you're going to have to meet for the walkers.
Yeah, well, that was one of the important things that came out of the last walk, was just that there were logistical issues, as Dave's already covered, and that we wanted to have sort of the accommodation and the routes and things firmed up before that walk starts. But we know that there will be costs involved with that. Obviously, the cost of the first aid equipment, and because of the situations with COVID, as a team and having discussed with the core walkers from the 500-mile walk, we thought it was really important that we provide them with all their accommodation for the full route, preferably bricks and mortar. But if not, we will look at tents and motorhomes and things. But our aim still at the moment is for us to stay in a house, building of some sort, every night. That they will all have their own personalised individual first aid kits. And the support, so we will provide that. They won't need to purchase that for themselves. The previous 500 miles walkers, Carl and Everett, have been brilliant at telling us all the things we need. So we're still building that at the minute. So we want to make sure that we can afford to purchase that and cover the cost of that, particularly all the food support type items that we need. And because of COVID, again, we wanted to do it personalised so that each individual has their own kit so people don't have to share things. We also want all their food included. We know that obviously big breakfasts, small lunches, reasonable dinners, and how that will work, we're not sure yet. It will be a combination of various different things, but that's again where we're looking for the volunteers to come in and help with that. And we basically just want to make sure that everything that those walkers need is there. So the only way we felt would be the best way to do that would be for anybody that registers to walk, they also have to raise their own sponsorship.
Right. I met, sorry Dave, on you go.
Would it be possible for people who can't actually, because I spoke to someone earlier on the week who was interested in walking, and she said, I'm from a really poor area. She said, I don't have a big social media presence. She said, I don't think I could raise that amount of sponsorship. She said, would it be possible for people to be able to sponsor through the main website?
Yeah, I think we're just looking at that at the moment, but I think we could take donations in just as standard, and we will promote all the walkers. Like, whilst the walkers are gathering under their own momentum because they have their own dashboard and that's the way the website's been designed, it is one pot. Yeah. It's not like if you don't raise your money, you can't do this. We've set the limit at where we think we need it to be in order to cover all of those costs, so that the people that are walking for us and raising the awareness of the covenant, it doesn't cost them any money.
Yeah.
However, obviously, there is obviously a risk to that you're not going to get the sponsorship in at the level that you need it. Yeah. But the aim is to do that. However, we would support all the walkers, no matter what. And we would aim to do that no matter what. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get until people get involved. Yeah. But for each walk, we worked it out that we would get a minimum sponsorship for each distance. Yeah. And that was kind of based on the fact that obviously the further you go, the more days you're walking, the more cost that is involved in that. But actually, in some ways, the smaller walks still attract that cost because you still have to have the teams. You can't not have a first aid team. You can't not have security, and you can't not have that. So it was trying to get the balance, also not have it too low. But if there are people who really want to walk, I mean, it is actually only 500, 713, 20 miles registered walkers that need sponsorship. Yeah. Anybody at any point in time can walk that walk. They can come join us for a weekend. Yeah. You know, anybody can do that, but it was only for the 3 longer registered walks that we retired that. So if anybody wants, if this person wants to join that walk and has that concern, it's not necessarily that sponsorship would come from their community either. It could come from anywhere. The fact that the website as well is not purely social media based, and that it has a reach worldwide means that we could have people coming in from all sorts of areas. And the other thing we're looking at this week to raise funds is corporate sponsorship. Yeah. And I have already engaged with a couple of people on that. So we're hoping that that will actually just boost anything that we don't get on the individual sponsorships, but all the money will be taken together. It won't be like, oh, you've only raised this much, but you've raised that much, therefore you get fed tonight and you don't. It won't work like that. It's basically one big pot of money to cover the cost for the event. And then of course, as well, the one thing that we have that can take extra funds in for this to help fund the walk is merchandise. And I know that last time you didn't have a massive amount of merchandise, but it was something you would ask for all the time.
The biggest problem we had with the last one was we couldn't get a trade account so that people could buy stuff by card. That was the problem.
Yeah.
And George Page, he did up a lot of merchandise that he basically practically gave away to give people mementos for it. I mean, he lost money on it, simply to help support the walk.
Yeah.
But as I say, it's like as long as there's a payment system in place, because that was a problem, and we tried, and everything just all fell through, and that basically led to a domino thing that caused problems with funding all the way through the last time. But,
yeah, I'll have to be 100% honest with you, Dave. It's been the one thing that we have struggled with massively. And the core team have spent the last week trying to work on this, and we've tried various options, but we do have a payment system up and running. We tested the sponsorships today and they're coming through, and that system will also be able to be used through sort of our merchandise shopping cart system. So there's no problem with that now, but it was a big headache. It was one of the biggest challenges we've had so far. So the next step now is obviously establishing what the merchandise is, what the products are. We've got the artworks, so hopefully the aim is actually for us to have merchandise by the by about the 15th of September at the moment, so that we can we have things to sell from day one.
Can I just mention two ladies that I met
yes,
and who also appeared, I think, at the BBC event last Saturday, carrying signs about the walk and carrying signs about the Covenant.
Okay.
One came from Clydebank, which is, I don't think, on your route, and the other one came from Dundalk, which I don't think is on your route. But both of them were saying, we want to take part in this.
Yeah.
They were talking then about, okay, if it's not on our route, where can we join up?
Yeah.
The reason I'm raising that is very simply is that, in essence, for me, given the previous walk, is what this is all about. Just people recognising what's taking place and saying, how can I play a part in it?
Of course.
Those two ladies epitomised it to me. I can't remember their names, so if they're watching this, hello, you're exactly what I'm looking for to help out on the walk.
Definitely, and I can confirm that Clydebank is on Route 1 coming into Glasgow. So we do go through Clydebank. I'm not sure about Dundalk, so I'd need to check that.
It's close by. It's close by. Don't worry about it.
It definitely goes through Clydebank, and that's Route 1. When we're coming into Glasgow, I'd need to check the date, but it would be maybe the second week in November. We arrive in Glasgow the 14th of November, I think it is. So it'll be in the days running up to that.
Takes us on to the fact that if people go on to the map at the present time, and I'm the most non-techie person you can meet,
so am I.
It takes a while to load up.
Yes.
But when it loads up, you'll see the routes. You'll see the amber bits that you were referring to. But the bit I want to draw attention to is you will see Saltires.
That's right.
Those Saltires, if you click on them, will tell you the date that is it's got to be updated, but at the moment it says the expected date for a particular area, whether someone is staying overnight, whether the walkers are staying overnight in that area. So that is the perfect place for you to go. If you happen to live, let's say, in Dumfries, look for the Saltire around Dumfries. If it happens to be Edinburgh, look for the Saltire for Edinburgh. I've looked at my own one where I know I am. So it gives me a date that I can be participating. It gives me a date where I can do the socks. That's why I mentioned those two ladies, because they were looking to do something, Diane. They wanted to participate. They go to the map, click close to Clydebank or wherever you happen to be, you'll find out what the dates are, and you'll find out whether people are staying and when the walk's going to be there.
Yeah. What I would say as well for those little Saltires, that's live information. So as you mentioned at the very start, when you click on that map, it takes a long time to load.
Yeah.
And that's the reason for it, because it's fully interactive. So on that information with the Saltire, you have the estimated arrival time of the walkers, you have the date of the walkers arriving, and that'll be kept up to date. It'll actually be updated on the day, so that because we can track the walkers' distance and the speed at which they're traveling it, so we can update that ETA every single day for people knowing, so that when people, if they have organised peripheral events and things to welcome us, those peripheral events will also be in that information. So essentially, whilst we've said, and I will say as a core team, when it comes, we're looking for volunteers to help provide support for the walkers. We also want everybody to welcome those walkers and have those peripheral events, but it's not something that we have taken on as the organisation. What we are essentially saying to the whole of the grassroots is, whatever you want to do, do it. Organise it yourselves and do it. Now, they can use that interactive map to give them the date that we are arriving and the estimated arrival time, so they know exactly how to work around it. And they can organise in their area whatever it is that they want. And any ideas, all ideas come to the table. And once we've finalised the route and made sure that everywhere that the walkers are walking will be safe, and that we have those dates, and we're aiming to do that, I think within the next week or so. Once that's done, we will open up the registration for the peripheral events. Now, for registering for, it's not because we want to get involved and we want to tell you what to do. It's just we want people to register for those peripheral events so that we will be able to build it into the website and give those yes groups or those grassroots organisations the promotion for free, and that builds on as part of the event. But the peripheral event itself will be wholly 100% owned and run by them. It's just we're offering to build it into the website so that everybody can see what everybody's doing, and that people that maybe want to travel a little bit at the weekend to go to that town for the walkers arriving or that city, they'll know what events are on there at the same time. So they'll know, oh, look, we've got, I don't know, say example, I'm just saying locally because this is my local group, but say Aberdeen have organised something for them arriving in Aberdeen. And I do know I've already been contacted by 2 or 3 people in the Northeast about these peripheral events. And I know that there are some excellent ideas coming out and some really interesting things.
Go on, Dave.
Oh, there always are. The ingenuity shown by yes groups that we saw in the front. And the thing is, you never know about them until they actually happen, and then there's just this little spark creates this little bit of magic, and it's amazing. And it was, there were so many. As I say, Dean's book just got released this week on Kindle, and I was proofreading it like last month, a month and a half ago, and it was so many things I'd forgotten about as I was reading through it. Oh, and it was just mental.
It's funny, it really is funny, because every time, and obviously because I'm walking, I've spent a lot of the last month coming down to the Central Belt and meeting with Carl and Ever, because I'll be walking with them and they have the experience, and every time I speak to them they tell a different story.
No.
And every time you speak to them and they'll say, oh, and do you remember this? And all, like the show that they did when we initially launched the idea of the event. Like actually when I watched that back, I had tears in my eyes, and that there I was in the sort of like, I really do want to walk, and I'd like to see if I can work this out. And then listening to that, I actually went from I want to walk to I have to walk. Like I really have to walk. And the very next day I went into my work and said, would I be able to get a secondment so that I can do this walk? I'll be honest, I don't think I could survive the 1320. I think 500 is more than enough for me. However,
1320. Well, apart from in the car, but that's just because they're mental.
Yeah, very brave. I think very brave. Or as we've said, and we've made references on our website with some of the pictures, we're the crazies.
Yeah.
So come join us. But we have all the fun.
Can I interrupt the crazies and bring you to a serious point?
Yes.
Nicola Sturgeon today says she's very anxious about how COVID outbreaks are showing up. How have you prepared for this, Diane, over the fact that there is a virus going round at the moment.
Yeah, and obviously we've had situations as well, you'll notice in the last month, where there are certain areas of the country that have gone into lockdown and others haven't. It's a difficult one to prepare for, because as that walk moves, that virus moves. So we basically, as we said, the teams and the core walkers, there aren't too many of them, and they can walk socially distanced or they can create their own bubbles. And then the people that are providing the support, we have a driver and a first aider in a support car. They also would need to be creating a bubble. The core team and the technical support, who will be rooted in one place for the whole time, will be doing daily evening calls with the walkers. And they will be keeping an eye on the news, whatever is happening in whatever area, where there are areas where there may be larger outbreaks and things. Because it's the same for the peripheral events for the groups. It's very difficult to plan right now because you don't actually know where you'll be, say, in October. So we've just taken the approach of we can do it, and we can do it with those small numbers, and then we'll just keep an eye on it every single day. And keep watch, and then whatever happens, we will be able to quickly accommodate that. No problem.
Quick comment on one of the things I worry about, and it happened on the first walk, the first 500, is that the core walkers must not be left alone at any stage.
Yeah.
So if there are people that want to support them, say I come out when they come in my area and I said, right, I can walk 5 miles with them. Yeah. What I've got to do is be aware of the fact that you're being aware of COVID, so I must be aware of it as well, and be sensible whilst that's going on. Yes. So perhaps I walk on the other side of the road from them and just wave my flag and take a photograph, whatever.
But anybody...
Dave, what are you going to say?
Sorry.
It's not very safe walking on the other side of the road. You're better walking like 5 metres behind.
Yeah, okay. And even 5 metres behind or 5 metres in front. Now, all the walkers plus all the security plus all the support teams will all have high-vis jackets. And we know that there's been an app developed, a COVID tracker app with a QR code. And the idea is to put that QR code on those high-vis vests, so that at any point in time you can connect and see exactly what is going on, but also you have that track and trace capability within there. So with all of these little things built in, and with the fact that we have access to that app, we know that we have absolutely everything we need and that we can change quickly. And because we will have a core team sitting in one place at one time with all the technical side of things covered, we know, and that we'll be in contact with them throughout the day, every day, and then doing our calls at night. That we don't really think we can plan much more beyond that at this stage, but we are very, very ready to change that plan and fit in with the COVID restrictions as and when they change as well.
I would recommend that you spend time going on to the web page. I'll give you an example of that. Is that if you are a support driver in a car, one of the things that you'll be asked to do is provide proof that you've got a driving license and proof that you've got the car insured. So there's a lot of detailed planning has gone into this. A lot of it's still got to be fitted together so that we actually end up with a finalised map, finalised dates, etc. But go onto the website. That's all we've done earlier with the 2 inserts is use 2 bits from the web page. Go onto the web page, folks.
Yeah, and what I would say with the web page and the way that the web page was actually designed, the website itself was designed to tell a story. Now, when you click on that website link through the round table, as soon as you click onto the event, the first thing that it does is it has an alert box that pops up and tells you, we are COVID aware. We are looking at this and we will be developing the plan. And I think it might be that towards the actual start of the walk, a few days before the walk, we should know where we're at with COVID, at least for that next week. So we can develop a page within the website to say, this is where we think, this is what we know and what the virus is doing right now. So these are the precautions that we've taken in this area, and we can keep that updated every few days as long as when the situation changes. And that website will be kept up to date 24/7 with all the information. It'll be kept up to date with information coming through from the walkers. It'll be kept up to date with photographs and vlogs and things like that from each of the days. We're considering at the moment potentially putting out, like the core team are going to do daily calls in the evenings with the walkers, and we are considering at that point potentially putting out maybe a 15-minute slot where the walkers are giving you the highlights of the day, what they've seen that day, who they've met, little small anecdotal stories, and then also it helps them to connect with everybody else in terms of how they're doing, how the walkers are doing, because most people will be concerned about the walkers. And then we're looking at GPS logging, live tracking for them at all points in time as well, which just builds in the back of that health and safety. But I would say there are some members in the core team who are quite health and safety conscious through their professions previously, and that's where a lot of this came from. So that's why the angle was taken for that initially. And also for the round table, for the core team at the round table, this is not the first and last event that they will organise.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we do this event and then it encourages other people to come with their ideas. Any idea that you have, bring it to the table, because I'm sure we can do it.
The other thing I was going to remind people of, because it's a passion I have, and I know, and Dave started it, is if there's a bridge anywhere near where the walkers are going, get your flags out, get on.
100%.
Bridges for Indy can take part in this. So there's been a big increase in the number of people on the Facebook page for Bridges for Indy. This is their opportunity, because wherever they are, they can take part. Get your flags out. There could be no better sight than the walkers walking past and someone on a bridge waving their flags, and all the people in that area and the traffic in that area becoming aware of the fact that Scotland is alive.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something as well. If people are volunteering to cover a day to film that route, they can also identify where the bridge is. And the bridges on for each route, where each bridge is for each day, we will list the bridges. So within that small interactive box with the Saltire we were speaking about earlier, we can have the bridge listed in there. This is the bridge, so that people know which bridge to go to. But actually, that will help build Bridges for Indy as a campaign as well. You know that I've recently been visiting bridges to meet with various different people and get information so that we could build this event. And I'd have to say, Bridges for Indy is like the best thing ever. It really is. It's so much fun, and it's so positive.
Mr. Llewellyn is bursting to say something. I can see it on his face.
Two things I wanted to say. One, it's about 5 minutes ago now because I couldn't get in. Your little 15-minute vlog with the walkers at the end of every day, that might work for the first week if it doesn't rain. If it rains, they're going to be far too knackered to do that at the end of the day. They might be able to do it once or twice, but they'll not be able to do it every day, nor will they want because the first 9 days that we did the first one, it rained every single day. And when we got to the end of the day, plus we were in the Highlands and we were in tents, it was before we got to the civilised part of the country.
This is what we're looking to do. That's why we're looking to get accommodation for them all, so they've got somewhere comfortable to be at night, somewhere to have a shower, somewhere to get dry, somewhere to get good food. But also the one thing we looked at before we prepared this, and it was actually something yourself said, Dave, and something that Carl and Ever said, was that on that previous walk, some of the days the distance was too much. So it was said, keep it below 20 miles. Yeah. I think there are 2 days that go to about 22 miles, but there are some days that are only 16. Yeah. So we've tried to keep it between 15 to 20 miles every single day, which means you shouldn't really be doing much more than 7 hours maximum walking a day.
There were some days we were doing as much as 30. The thing is, if you're walking 20 or 22 mile a day in driving rain, and that's what a lot of it was, and at the same time of the year, and you're going another 100 mile further north than we went, then it's not going to be easy, and it takes it out of you.
Yes.
Because if you stop, it's harder to start again than it is to just keep going. It's I can't explain it until you've actually done it. I don't think you'll get your 15 minutes every night. But is it Ian Leckenby that's going to be doing the video? Is it?
I think so. That sounds familiar. I think so. Yeah, yeah. He's volunteered to do the live stream. Yeah.
I'll probably. I was thinking about maybe doing that on the 500.
That would be marvelous.
I won't be walking, but if I can get, well, in fact, if I can do that, I'll also need to have somebody on that with a car as well, because my car.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as we've also said, Dave, you know, for every, because we're making the days a little bit shorter, and the one thing that Carl and Ever have said to me and have emphasised to me is that first 7 to 9 days will be a nightmare. Yes. Like, and it's a real test of your mental strength. Absolutely. But once you get past that and you get to day 10 and onwards, your body becomes like a machine.
Yes, it does.
And it just gets used to doing what it does. So that's why I'm a little bit like, when I get to Glasgow, I might not stop. If my machine's still going, I might just keep going.
Actually, it's funny you should say that, because it does get you. It does get you that way. The problem is that if you go into it with that sort of idea that you might keep going, it's round about the time that you sort of get that second wind that you start to get injuries. Your blisters start to get bad. Your stress fractures, all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're banging that road every day, and that's the thing with the mileages we were doing before, because we had a certain time that it was set for, and because we got battered by the weather for the first quarter of the walk. But as I say, it's like, if you do that, I mean, there were times that we had to take Dean into the van and get him treated in the van before he could continue walking. They had to sit and catch people up. And that's okay when you're sitting with a larger group, but if you're doing that and you've only got 2 people, that causes all sorts of problems, you know what I mean? Because then you've got 2 people walking on their own.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons as well why we wanted to put a call out to anybody that owns a motorhome.
Yep. To
potentially provide that support on the route, but also to keep things like bottled water, various first aids, but just to help with keeping things so that we know that then if there is a motorhome and somebody does get injured, they've got a proper sofa to sit down on and they can get their treatment and they can get whatever else. And also if one of those vehicles needed to leave to take someone to the nearest hospital or the nearest medical centre, we would still have another support vehicle. So to have a support car plus a motorhome would be beneficial. Now I know that for the 500 miles I'm walking, I will have one because it will be mine. Yeah. And I'm just trying to finalise my drivers at the moment. And that could potentially be elsewhere. But one of the other things as well, if you notice on the volunteer page, is that we're looking for people in all the areas to pop up as emergency response teams. So that if anything did happen, there's someone just sitting on standby in the nearest town or the nearest village or the nearest whatever that can pop out in their car, potentially pick up that person, take them to where they need to be, and we don't lose that core support.
Yeah, you'll be aware that there's a lot of the Highlands doesn't have a phone signal.
Yes, I am, but you can use certain GPSs and things for that. So I'm hoping it won't be too bad because we are stopping in locations. So there are populations everywhere we go. And if the worst comes to the worst, then we would just do CB radio connection. Do it the old style way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There you go.
Where there's a will, there's a way, Dave.
I've covered most of the stuff I wanted to do. Let's try and sum up between the 3 of us. There are 3 routes. 2 start on the 18th of September. 1 starts on the 24th of October. They're not absolutely finalised yet because we want people to go and video the bits that haven't been covered to make sure they're safe. So please, folks, before the 18th of September, have a look at the map and get involved in actually outlining the route and making sure it's safe. We're then looking for as many volunteers to take part. The 2 ladies from Clydebank and Dundalk are my favourites for the suggestion. Just decide what you can do. You don't have to be walking. I've already joked that I'm going to measure the distance of my stairs and try and see if I can walk 500 miles on my stairs. And I've given Dave a song I want to be sorted out for doing that. Be involved, take part, folks. And over to you two to finalise your own thoughts.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I mean, finally for me, I suppose, yeah, you've covered everything, Mike. What I would say is that, yeah, as we get those routes finalised, they'll turn green on the map, so you know that they're final. And once they're final, that's when people can get in and start organising their peripherals. And then as the route also gets finalised, more Saltires will start appearing on there, because we'll have finalised the villages or the towns or whatever. Because in some of these days, you're actually going through 8 or 9 locations in a stretch, particularly once you get to the Central Belt. The communities kind of come one after the other. So it could be, if you're in the Central Belt, you could actually be hitting 12 communities in one day in a 50-mile stretch, just depending on how the route is going. So we want to make sure that that's kept as up to date as possible, so that I will pre-warn you that the map might get a bit messy. And you just have to click on the right Saltire and it'll tell you where you're at. I think that's about all just now, but the biggest encouragement I would give to people is, go to the website, read the information, get involved, and understand that that website was designed to be a story. So at the bottom of each page or in the centre of some of the pages, you'll find buttons that will say, support us, walk with us, these types of things. And that was the way that it was designed. So to bear with the narrative, we've tried to keep it as
page after page after page. Exactly. It's like a story.
Yeah, but that was how we designed it, the story of the event. So yeah, we're hoping people like it that way, but maybe not.
Well, I've got something to bring in. As somebody who's colour deficient, you've got 3 walks. You've got a blue one, a pink one, and a green one. And as these things get done, they're all going to go amber. How do you know which walk's which when they all go amber? Because they're all crisscrossing each other.
Oh, well, yeah, they're not quite crisscrossing each other, so to speak. They do a bit in the Central Belt, though. Yeah. But that's something that the core team will let you know about. I wouldn't ask me. I'm a technophobe.
Because at the moment, because I'm colour deficient, I have trouble with the blues and pinks. So I've actually been following one walk down and then completely went off on another one, and I've been following them, and that's when they're 2 different colours. So when the walks go live, they will be, and once that is live and you're tracking them every day, they will be split into 3 separate walks and 3 separate maps. The volume of the information to have that all on one map, it's not going to cope with it. So they've already said that they will be split into 3, so you can follow walk 1, walk 2, or walk 3. It will also help that loading time, because the more information we put into those Saltires that has to load, the longer it's going to take. So we are going to split them out into 3. So the likelihood is we know you'll have 3 maps on possibly 3 different pages. I'm not going to say how that'll be laid out at the moment, because I, technophobe, know nothing about these things. I just am involved in the conversation.
Yeah, David approached Derby again. It was a repeat of history. He'd just gone too far this time. Turn back. Sorry.
No worries at all.
I never turn back.
You always just touch sharpen, do you?
Aye, bring it on.
There's a good way maybe to bring this to a close. Scotland's not turning back, Dave.
No.
Diane, thank you very, very much for all the information.
No problem at all. No problem. If we've got any updates later, I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to come back on if I'm welcome.
You're the first person on 3 times now. You're pushing it.
I know. I've got a pen as well now. I'm feeling very fancy. I've got merchandise.
Don't tell anybody about the pens, or everybody will be wanting one.
Well, then they'll be in demand. You got one there, have you?
If you're wondering what she's talking about, people. Oh no, seriously.
What you need to do next is you need to get T-shirts with yourselves on them.
I'm not walking around with a mic on my chest. So, so thanks for coming along, Diane.
That's right.
There's no doubt we'll be seeing you and your bag a few more times.
Oh yes, don't you worry. Me and my bag will be travelling about Scotland from now on.
Of course, now Miss Bunty will know that you weren't actually a reporter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so long as she keeps a good enough eye out, she will.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks very much for coming in, tuning in, guys. As I say, all this information you can see in the square below me for the address to the website. and you'll be able to find out everything that'll be there. You'll be able to register there to help. You'll be able to register there to take part. You'll be able to register for all sorts of things. It's your event. It's been made for you. Like, all you've got to do is take part in it. Talk to you later. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.